From the 5th verse of our offertory song for today, these words. Pray, O Lord, the Spirit on our lives descend in might. Let your flame break out within us. Fire our hearts and clear our sight till white hot in your possession, we too set the world alight. Be seated. Of all the scriptures read today, what should be our text? Elijah, afraid, waiting, and God only speaks in silence? Or the psalmist who cries out, my food is my tears. Why is my heart so disquieted? Why is it so heavy? Listening to the taunts of others who say, where is your God? Or Paul's letter to the Galatians, a reminder to be clothed in our baptism. What outrageous clothes it is. A reminder from him that to be clothed in Christ, we live into God's reign where there is no distinction of race or class or gender. Or from the gospel of a man possessed by evil, his life left unclothed in his nakedness, living in the tombs, living in death, tormented, dangerous to himself and to others, shackled. He even breaks his shackles, tormented, leaving that place where he is in death. Of all the scriptures, I can hardly pick. And yet one thing that jumped out at me personally as I read through the stories and I read through this gospel lesson was the response of the community in the Gerasenes. How the people responded to this man who had been demon-possessed and held by evil and then healed. Their response. Because I want to start with a confession to you. And that is that last Sunday, I had heard the news of the mass killing before the service started. And it just washed over me. You could say, well, I was focused on, it was Christian Formation Sunday, and we were getting a picnic, and so yes, we honor our children, but I am ashamed that somehow my own heart had been so distracted and I had become so calloused by just another shooting that it didn't even touch me in that moment. We offered a prayer, but as a community, we didn't stop. I didn't stop. And I'm sorry. How easy to become numb. How easy to become accustomed to life in the tombs, life in death. It has become our new normal that the front pages have another shooting. And I know as some of you came in today, there were another killing in the Bronx last night. It wasn't a shooting, but there was a stabbing of a young man, 17, whose uncle was a vestry member at the Church of the Ascension, Carl. I pause because his name connects to me personally as a connection to our church, but what of all these names? I pray I and we never become numb to what's happening in these tombs. It would be later in the day, last Sunday, that it would sink into me what had happened. And I am grateful that God did not let me just kind of accept the callousness, shut down. And so began the next morning. What do we do? What can we do? And I know each one of you here are wrestling with that. And I know some of you have said, Susan, I hope you preach on Sunday. What can we do? Give me the list. I can't do that. I can tell you what I did. And that was deciding that either I take small actions to callous myself and stay silent, or I take whatever small actions I can to declare my solidarity with those who have died, with our gay and lesbian friends. What small steps do we take moving towards healing, towards love, or the other direction? And so we took small actions. We joined in prayer. We had one rainbow banner out, which we always have out, but we said, well, let's put out 2 more. So we did that. And as most of you know, the next morning it was taken. And that's when I sent you a message saying, just so you know, another banner was taken, and please pray. I pray that it wasn't someone who was doing it maliciously, not wanting to say to us, we don't want a church to support gay and lesbians, or was it just a kid? We don't know. I said, pray. Well, out of that came even more action, because someone asked if it was okay to tell the local news, which they did. And as most of you know, the local news reported it, and then Channel 1 and Channel 7 and Channel 4 and Channel 2 and the Hudson Independent and the Journal News, and it became somehow what some small action became a much bigger action. We also had a vigil. We prayed, we came together, we read the names, which we will again do today. We will read the names of those who died, and not only those who were killed in Orlando, but we will read the names of those who we know of who have died this weekend. We will remember the names of those who killed a year ago in a church in South Carolina. We will remember. Our response of having the banner taken down, well, I should say my response. And I want to tell you that I pray that you know that when I make a response and when I did these actions, I did it believing that I had your heart and affirmation. If I didn't, and if I offended anyone in any way, please tell me. We are in this together. And so my response when the banner was stolen was to buy 4 more. Because I said, you can take it down and we will put it back up. And we also got messages. We got one on the machine that a man who'd had his grandfather went to this church said, I don't go to this church, but my grandfather did, and I want to buy a banner. Would you tell me where and how? And he said, so if you see one day a Harley Davidson pulled up and stopped in front of your church, you'll know it's me. I said, okay. We had more support. One day, we did get some messages of strong disapproval. And then Ken Davies came and said, I'll be your unarmed bodyguard. And we said, well, we let you come and be our prayerful presence. So if you should have been around when Gray and I sang, and I will always love you. So, but to have Ken sit here and have people come in off the street and say, thank you. Thank you for the banners. Thank you for being here. It encouraged us to know what we had done was a statement of solidarity, especially to our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters. But like in the village of the Gerasenes, not everyone was happy with actions of healing. And we got some very strong messages of disapproval, messages that said to have a rainbow banner in front of a church is an abomination. We had a message that said there are good Episcopal churches and there are bad Episcopal churches. And a church led by a woman that has a gay agenda is a church of Satan. And on they went. And to say that our stance of solidarity was a slap in the face of God. I'm telling you, it's been a really hard week. And it is tempting to want to say, we better be quiet. And I know that some people are afraid. I know some people aren't here today because of fear, and I get that. And I respect the reality of that. And we need to take care of each other and be smart and be safe. Because when we begin to speak out, just like it happened in the Gerasenes, when healing happened, it affected people economically and affected a whole social order. People didn't want to have happen. They had become accustomed to the way of death. They knew how to set a guard for this man who's crazy. They knew how to bring him food. They knew that. What they don't know what to do is now that he's healed. As I wrestled with the silence of God, trying to hear, God, what are you saying? What should we do? What is the next right thing to do? And that's when I put the sign out in front that said, love your neighbor and ban assault weapons. I knew it was provocative. I felt it was a message that had to be said. And then we got people really upset. Because not only are you meddling and involved in a gay agenda, you're in our gun control agenda. What else are you going to get into? Are you going to be friendly with Muslims? You can bet what happens if we put a sign out of that. But I don't believe that any of these things are an agenda of mine or ours. I think God is calling a radical agenda of an extension of love and action, to not be afraid to speak. The sign that was out that said, and many of you didn't see it, but love your neighbor and ban assault weapons, we got a call from the village telling us it violated the sign code. I brought it in. Sadly, some of you saw that this situation touches us personally. Some of you might read Facebook. You read my Facebook. You saw someone on my Facebook who wrote, I don't like your sign. I have a right to carry my guns. If I want assault weapons, I can't remember exactly his wording, but essentially if I want to defend myself, I want to do it quick and fast and often, and I have that right. And I know some of you were really troubled by that interaction, and you'll see that I told the person I wanted to take the conversation offline and to call me. Some of you might think that's a bold thing to do, to leave your phone number to somebody like that. But he's a relative. And I wept and wept. Because all of us know that some of the views, whether it's against gays and lesbians or it's a different view about gun control, it's in our family, it's close by. When Jesus healed the man with the demons, he wanted to be with Jesus. He wanted to be close to him. And this week, we wanted to be with Jesus. Can you talk to us? Can you tell us what to do next? Can you guide us? I wanted to be with Jesus, and the other person I wanted to be with was my dad. And blessings to all you fathers. You good fathers. I miss my dad. We didn't always agree on everything. but I needed his wisdom. And like my dad, who's gone to the other side, Jesus left and went to the other side. And he left that man there with those people. Can you imagine? I'd have said, no, you're not leaving me here. I'm with you, Jesus. But somehow it seems like the man, so full of the love of God, the healing that he'd received, we don't see the argument, we just see the action. Because Jesus tells him, go home. Wow. To the people who at one time knew your name. Because this is a man, just a little exegetical note. When he's asked what his name is, he's lost his name. His name is now Legion, which defines him by his demons. It defines him by whether it's his addiction or his illness. He is not defined by who he is anymore. I don't know how far healing can extend. How far? As we read the news about Omar, we realize his action wasn't something recent, that he was, his mind changed. This is a kid who's troubled since he was a small child. But now, this man healed does go home. He does speak the name of Jesus. 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 And it will be chapters later that we will find out he has told the whole region about Jesus. And this time they come to him. They too want to be healed. This man goes. He goes out white hot in God's possession, possessed by the courageous love of God in Jesus. And he goes and sets the world alight. He did that. Will we?